Welcome to Troweling Down, Biblical Archaeology for the 21st Century. I'm Gary Byers. This is Dr. Steve Collins, our resident rock star and pottery star. And the last time we had just gotten back from el-Hammam for our 8-week excavation. And you finished by saying that it was sort of the icing on the cake, the cherry on top. This final 8-week season just sort of finished off. Left us with plenty of questions, new questions, but just kind of finished off things that we've been trying to understand. It was amazing. And so you had me talk a little bit about what I found, but last time, give us some other stuff that was just amazing from this season and what it's been saying to you since we found it.
There were several finds that came to bear that I can't talk about.
Yes.
I can't talk about it until we get a little further down the road, and we've had a chance to publish some of this stuff. And so sometimes we're sort of prohibited from just laying it all out there and showing pictures or anything like that. But one of the things that I thought was really, really interesting this season, and has never happened to us on the upper city. On the lower city, we excavated through the early Bronze Age, taking us back to the 4th millennium BC.
Yeah,
we had the 3rd millennium BC IB stuff, which have right here in front of us. We had the Middle Bronze 1, the Middle Bronze 2 period. And but on the upper city, we had only ever seen the surface Iron Age material, the more surfacey Iron Age material, the Middle Bronze 2 and the Middle Bronze 1 period a little bit.
Yeah.
But we had never seen, in terms of dwellings and any kind of architecture or living surfaces, from either the Intermediate Bronze Age or going back before that, the Early Bronze Age. Well, in one particular set of squares over in Field U-C, where Mark Strong, one of our doc students, was directing the excavations there, they were able to get down deeper than I thought they would. I was just thinking, okay, they're going to get another really good look at the Middle Bronze Age at el-Hammam outside the palace, but still in the elite area, the sort of aristocratic elite segment of the city, the upper city, but outside the palace. And so it was very interesting. There were so many little things going on there. Number one, as I recall, as I sort of go through the finds in my mind, there was very little or no palaceware.
Correct. Very little. Some,
now
very
that
little.
A little bit, but that could be coming in the nature of our destruction event. Could have been coming from the palace, which is just about 70, 100 meters to the southwest. Yeah. But for the most part, the vessels, and quite a few whole vessels, were not decorated in the palaceware style.
No.
And that was interesting, because we've been saying that the palaceware, that's what we call it, palaceware, the multi-slipped crossed white palaceware pottery, was very different than anything we had ever seen. Pretty much different than anybody has ever seen, because I've talked to so many scholars about it who are experts in the Middle Bronze Age pottery, and they've never seen anything like this stuff. But it was going to be interesting to see if we could find any of it really existing on the upper city outside the palace. And lo and behold, it was almost systematically absent, except for some sherds, which may have fallen in from the southwest. So I thought that was interesting. Yes. I just thought, there's something special about that palace and about whoever was ruling in that palace, who put down some rules about the kind of service that they would get in the palace and the kind of pottery that the dinners would be served on, and it was and even stored in, because some of the jars, just the everyday garden variety storage jars in the palace are surface treated with this cross wiping that is so distinct to the palace only.
Now, last time when we were on, I talked about the 2 infant jar burials and the women that would have been working the bread ovens there in the palace. So just take a minute. The upper city is 21 acres maybe. How much of the upper city is the palace, do you suppose? You would say a third of that maybe?
I've never put it together in terms of an acre. Maybe the palace footprint would occupy maybe a third of an acre.
A third of an acre.
Still pretty good size. I mean, the footprint of the palace is is just a little bit bigger than the footprint of the White House.
Right. I think I would think it'd be more than 30, whatever it is.
1,300 and some odd square meters.
So outside of the palace on the upper city, you just said probably just the elite. Maybe some royal family members, but certainly military, administrative officials, maybe some just flat out wealthy business people. That would be all that lived up there. And those are the houses that we were talking about in the area you were just taking. And then the ladies that were working in my kitchen would have been from the lower city.
They would have been from the lower city, or maybe in a hamlet near the city.
Yeah, yeah. So that's how our site would have looked. Wealthy homes up there around the palace, and then down below would be the places where you and I and Danny and Larissa would have lived.
Yeah.
Down in the lower city. Okay, so that early stuff. A friend of ours wrote a book. A German friend of ours wrote a book. Can't say it in German, but it says the title is "The Bible is Right," and in that he had a chart that you pointed out to me. He talked about a earthquake that happened in the region, and he attributed what we had at Tal el-Hammam to that earthquake in about 2050 BC.
Yeah.
And one day you said, "I think we found that earthquake." In that area you were just
and we had
discussing.
found it in several places on the lower city.
Yes.
Where we saw the shaken down bricks and how they were falling and tumbled, and how they just basically brought in dirt and leveled up over the fallen bricks and broken bricks, and just went up with their house from there, and was kind of rebuilt, remodeled. But we ran into, by the way, we got under the Middle Bronze 1. Under the Middle Bronze 2. We found the Middle Bronze 1 dwellings, we found IB dwellings underneath that, and EB dwellings underneath that. So it was, Mark got down pretty low, and it just went through the whole sequence. It was very exciting to me to see the whole sequence of occupation at Tal el-Hammam, at the Tal el-Hammam lower city, on the upper city, right in the middle of the upper city. And so that quite nicely confirms that the upper city and the lower city were fully occupied during all those periods.
Now let me just remind everybody, you said the Middle Bronze 2 period, that's the time of the destruction. That's that 1 meter of destruction I was talking about.
Which is the biblical time of Abraham.
And then below that, the Middle Bronze 1 period was the start of the major palace complex and that upper city that we're used to. And then below that were the earlier periods that we didn't know for sure were up there, figured they were, but we found them really for the first time.
And again, very similar to what's on the lower city.
Yes.
The same people in the EB and the IB, same family, and the MB, all the same family, living essentially in the same houses, on the same footprint, just kind of moving up a little bit. Yeah. Just kind of the floor gets changed, the multiple floors, and coming on up. But when we got down to bedrock, and we got down to bedrock in a couple of areas where it was literally this cobbly, geologically, it's sort of like a moraine left behind by glaciers by the last ice age, and so it's just very cobbly stuff. It's not a cobble surface laid down by people; it's a bunch of cobbles laid down by a retreating glacier. But we found all the pottery, the early bronze, the intermediate bronze, the Middle Bronze 1 and Middle Bronze 2, sherds of pottery going all the way down to that level, mixed, which tells me that the people who were living, and we were very careful to take all the pottery that was right on that surface, bedrock surface, and to wash everything and to look at everything. And when we did, we discovered that all of those periods are represented in that pottery, and they're all that, obviously, that bedrock level remained cleared, remained used for a very long time. But as you were saying, there was an event. At one point, there was an event, big earthquake, and we'd seen it. It's in the interface It's in the transition between the Middle Bronze 1 period, or the IB2 period, and the Middle Bronze 1 period. So sometime around 2100 BC.
This says IB2 jars right here.
Yeah.
So this is this period. This is when the earthquake happened, and then on top of that, there was something brand new.
So there was a bunch of tumbled bricks, and in those tumbled bricks, amidst the tumbled bricks, with bricks on top, we found the skeleton of a person we think is a woman. There is a possible infant. We found one or two smaller bones sort of in the mix. And then 2 leg bones over here that don't seem to be hers, sort of sticking out of the balk. And we weren't able to excavate that or retrieve those. But there's like 2 femur ends or 2 leg bones or something coming out. And her spine is going this way and that way, and she's really in a bad way. She had one hand like this, as if in a reactive, just natural position to protect herself. So she is duck and cover mode, just unconsciously duck and cover, and because the house is falling. And in her left hand, she winds up on her side, sort of bent in half from the falling bricks, on her side with her hand like this, covering the side of her face, and her left hand held close to her chest. And in that hand is another piriform juglet.
Like the ones in those infant jar burials.
Yeah. So she was carrying a juglet, and over the top of her, right, not necessarily over her, we have to look at the levels, but there was a Middle Bronze jug and a bowl.
Right.
It's almost as if she were carrying that juglet in one hand, and the bowl and the pitcher sitting within it in the other hand. And as soon as the earthquake started to shake and debris started to fall from above, she began to duck. She dropped the bowl and the jug and began to cover for her own protection, but she never let go of the juglet. And she died in that position.
Wow.
And that was pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
Now, you and I got to work and gleaned out some, what we hope are good radiocarbon samples of carbonized wood, carbonized beams.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, I don't think we found any grain or short life samples in that mix, but hopefully we'll get a good range of dates that will help us to date this event.
Mm-hmm.
But we're almost positive what it is,
Yeah.
because the pottery dates to the Middle Bronze 1 period, to the early part of the Middle Bronze Age. This would be that transition period from the IB2 to the MB1. So to me, that would be extremely exciting, because we actually then have a person who was killed in that event.
Now we probably have like 1 minute. Lisa says I got 2 minutes. So we found Bert and Ernie on the other end of the palace, on the southern end of the palace, and they had good teeth, and that's what the folks at Harvard Medical Center, whatever that's, can't think of the name of it.
Yeah, the DNA lab at Harvard Medical Center.
DNA lab at Harvard Medical Center. They got 2 of our guys, nicknamed Bert and Ernie, and they got their teeth, and we did get word that they've done the analysis.
We're just waiting on the results.
Waiting on the results.
And these are 2 of our Middle Bronze 2 guys who died in the big destruction event.
Destruction. Are we going to have some DNA material to find from this lady, this person?
Yes.
So we'll have something
With
from
Bert and
that too.
Ernie, we just had the upper dentition, because they were pretty much blown to smithereens. This one, we have all the dentition, upper and lower.
Wow.
So we have all the teeth. So we will get good DNA. Now, this event, I think we'll see how our radiocarbon dates hold up, but pottery-wise, it predates the other event by probably somewhere around 300 years.
Yeah. So we'll, and when we do this study, the DNA study, we'll be able to find out the sex of the individual, something about their age, of course their health, but where they've been, their
Even with,
DNA sequence.
isotopic analysis, we might be able to tell if they were well-traveled or never left home.
Yeah. So very exciting stuff, what we're able to find, but what science is now doing in archaeology. A lot of great information. Stay tuned. We'll keep you posted as it comes forth. We're glad to have you join us today. Join us again next time, Traveling Down Biblical Archaeology for the 21st Century.